But yeah, welcome. Today we're just talking about what the Kansas Family Support Center does and how we can help serve you. Just a couple, I'm going to start with some general information. We are state funded, both by the Department for Children and Families and the Department for Aging and Disability Services, uh, informally known as, DCF and KDADS. And we are also a sub-project for the Kansas Center for Autism Research and Training, or KCART. We are housed at the University of Kansas Medical Center in KCK, but we do serve statewide and we have partners across the state, along with we do travel as well. So, just a few things that we're going to discuss today. I'm giving our general overview. We're going to go through what we call our tier one, two, and three services, but we're primarily going to be focusing on our tier three stuff, just because we wanted to focus all of this towards families and tier one. A big part of that is the webinars, and you're here, so you already know a little bit about that. Our tier two is more about training opportunities for professionals, so we will touch on it, but we wanted to make sure that we focused on things that would be most interesting to you guys. And then we'll also talk about some of our other resources and programs as well. Our community focus are families and caregivers of children with disabilities. Um, and we serve both birth and foster families in the child well-being system. That's something that I know that Kansas DCF is like really trying to change the language around from child welfare to child well-being. So if that's a new thing to you guys, it's a new thing to me as well, but that's what I'm referring to it as. And then, of course, professional support personnel for this population, which could be case managers, it could be pediatricians, teachers, anything like that. And our mission is to build a tiered level of support to educate, establish relationships, and identify resources for Kansas families through broad education, group trainings, and individualized services for families, caregivers, and providers to promote placement stabilization. So, we keep saying tiers of supports. So this is just a little graphic to kind of show what those look like. So we start at the bottom tier with tier one, which is our broad category. So this is just stuff that's universal and broad education, trying to just reach and educate as many people as possible. And then we go up to tier two, which is more of our small group and targeted trainings. And then tier three is individualized support. So it's set up like this because, of course, we're going to address families in need of crisis supports or who are getting close to that. But we also wanted to set up supports to prevent people from ever needing that individualized support as well. So that's where the broad education and trainings come into play. I'm going to start with our universal training and education tier, our tier one stuff. We first have a newsletter. This is something that I send out at the beginning of each month. I do have a QR code and a bit.ly link here, but don't feel stressed about scanning it right now because I do have an email that will automatically send out to everyone who registered at the very end of this presentation. So you'll get these notes as well. So if you don't get a QR code or a link, don't stress. But I send out updates about our organization, what events we have going on, but also other updates in Kansas events, whether that's, important feedback that KDADS is looking for, or maybe there are conferences or events in different areas of the state. I try to always include all of those as well. And it's a great time. We, as many other organizations do, have some social media. We do have Instagram and Facebook. In this, we try to share out some of our general resources. We work with professionals to give like tips and tricks, whether that's how to prepare for sensory safe Halloween or 4th of July, or just trying to share as much information as we can through our social media. Of course, we have our webinars and echoes. Right now, we are doing 2 virtual learning sessions per month. These are various topics, autism, IED. We have a big foster focus as well because we do have that DCF grant and focus. So you'll see lots of different events coming through. If you've subscribed to our newsletter, you'll get those kind of updates and then you'll be able to register. But if you're unable to register and attend any of those, we do have a YouTube channel. And we edit and post them to our YouTube channel. When I say edit, I just try to like edit out any personal information. Like if somebody comes off of mute and starts speaking, I try to edit that out just because, well, I have given my consent to be posted on the internet. You guys have not, and so I try to protect your guys's safety in that way. Um, I was going to say one more thing. Oh, and I do say like all of our events, but probably 0.01% don't get posted just because certain programs have limitations on how things can be shared. So some of them are live, but in those instances, we do communicate that they will not be recorded and shared through our YouTube. And as I'm going through this, if you have any questions and you don't want to come off mute, that's all good. I do have the chat pulled up, so feel free to write a question in the chat, and I will either answer it out loud or I will answer it when I pass it on to Sarah to talk about tier 3 stuff as well. But I'm going to go ahead and move into tier 2, and this is our trainings. I'm going to give like a very high level overview of this, but please, if you are interested in these as well, if you go to our website, kfsc.ku.com, it should be .edu. That is a mess up. But you should be able to find a list of our trainings. So we offer a lot of different trainings through our Oasis program. You see that link in the bottom right corner. We do have parent training, which I'll talk about more here in a second. We have coach training, trainer training, and these are more of our like provider type trainings for direct service providers, direct support workers, and autism specialists. Our DSP and DSW trainings, we do travel for those. We do them at the KU Med Center as well, but we have traveled across the state to provide those to different organizations as well. But a little bit more on parent training. Parent training is a behavioral skills training for parents. And it helps equip parents to be better at navigating challenges. We do have materials provided in Spanish/English, but it is delivered in other languages with an interpreter as well. It's just the Spanish and the English models are what we have readily available. But it has different modules. You'll work with a coach if that's the route that you choose. We have various coaches who can do live sessions with families. But we also do have a asynchronous version as well for families to work through online modules on their own, just to help learn some new skills and things like that. Of course, if you're really interested in learning more about any of those trainings, because again, that is a very, very high level overview, please go to oasis.ku.edu, and you can learn a little bit more. And if you work for an organization that would like to host one of our trainings, if you send us an email, we can start that conversation as well. I'm not seeing any questions. So, Sarah, I'm going to go ahead and pass on to you.
Thanks, Kit. So over the next few slides, I'm going to be giving an overview of our tier 3, or what we call our individualized support services that we offer. Okay, if you'll go to the next slide over. So as Kit mentioned, a lot of these services or different projects, whether it's tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3, they're really geared primarily towards children and youth across the state who are diagnosed with autism or IDD, those suspected to have autism or IDD as well, and involving children in foster care as well as their care teams. So really the goal throughout what I'm going to be talking about today is really prevention and placement stabilization. So I think particularly applicable for this group as we're talking through foster placement, providing school supports. If those of you on the call are familiar with psychiatric treatment facilities or PRTFs, or more acute high needs places, Colleen, I'm seeing a yes. Thank you for that feedback. Appreciate it. Um, so the goal really is prevention and placement stability. So whether that's helping to prevent an initial PRTF placement, returning to a PRTF, or some other out of home placement. And Colleen, if I'm correct, you mentioned that you're a foster parent, so I'm sure that you've sort of experienced maybe kiddos or youth who kind of have bounced around between homes. We try to help create that stability with their current placement. Um, and so part of this like tier 3 service package that we offer includes things like clinical case review, system navigation, support, and advocacy. It is always a mouthful. And then IEP support and general school consultation support. So I'll go through each of these three more in depth. And similar to what Kit said earlier, feel free to add questions throughout the chat. If I am able to see it and multitask as well as I hope and think that I can, I'll try to answer it on the spot. If not, I'll answer it in the chat or when I have a moment. But Kit, if you'll go to the next one. So I want to talk through what our tier 3 process looks like, all the way from intake, so the beginning, all the way to the very end with follow-up and discharge. So for caregivers and providers, really anyone who's interested in either learning more about tier 3 services, or if they have a child, youth, someone on their caseload who maybe they're struggling a bit with and they would like some support with, anyone can complete that intake form. I've learned now to really make sure to highlight that anyone can complete this. There are so many other systems that have gatekeepers in place where you need to do a battery of assessments, or you need to really bounce around before you get in front of someone. That is not the case for us. Anyone can fill out the intake form. Um, so the first step is to complete that intake form on our website. A QR code will also be available shortly. And this intake form just covers some basic questions about demographic information, diagnoses, waiver status, current concerns, anything that either you as family, foster family, caregiver, provider are interested in pursuing or learning more about. On that intake form, again, we try to keep it as streamlined and as easy as possible. It is important that as you're filling that out, that you make sure to include your relationship with the child. That way, if a provider or another family support individual is completing that intake form, we want to make sure that we have contact information for all of the relevant parties in that individual's life, so that we have good communication really across everyone. So once that intake form is complete, we'll move to the second stage, our review process. I say our team our intake team. Really, it feels like a team, but it's Candace, sometimes Kit as well, um, who reviews that intake form and looks to identify what services you might already be eligible to receive and determine if there are any of those services that could be provided internally by our in-office clinicians and experts. So for some individuals who are completing this intake form, they might just need a list of ABA or applied behavior analysis providers in their area. Um, Maybe they need help learning which CDDO or Community Developmental Disabilities organization that they need to get in contact with. So maybe they are really just contacting us because they need some resources, or they might have some higher level support needs. And for those, maybe more complex cases, we determine if their needs would be best met with maybe some of the group trainings that Kit was mentioning with our OASIS parent and caregiver trainings. Um, that can be also modified for really any caregiver at all, staff, support, any individual who is working or supporting that individual. Maybe that training would be a best fit for them. They might also help determine whether that clinical consultative support would be beneficial, or if they're maybe needing some assistance with system navigation, which we all know is very complicated, right? Or maybe they're needing some help with school advocacy. So that's just kind of a broad overview of kind of step one intake, second step review. Okay, if you'll go to the next slide over, we'll talk a bit more about what our services look like. So for those higher support needs, or what we like to call the high acuity cases, we'll meet with caregivers, parents, providers, again, anyone important in that individual's life, so that we can learn about the child and youth who's being referred to us. Ask questions about what are the concerns, like what's going on right now in their life, and gather any relevant information and documentation. So we might ask for things like assessment reports, evaluations, anything that helps sort of paint a picture of what is going on in this individual's life. Um, our internal team can then provide immediate assistance to you all as foster parents, family members, service providers. And really the goal here is to help bridge gaps in services, again, so that we can prevent, or I should say, yeah, prevent placement instability, but to really help bolster up that placement stability. Um, Help to mitigate those very, very long wait times. Like I just mentioned, navigating the systems involved can be really complex. I've been doing this for a while and I am still learning a ton. Um, it's unfortunate that there are so many different barriers and hoops that we have to jump through. So we try to alleviate that, help reduce some of those long wait times, and provide access to our network of community-based providers. Any questions here so far? I'm not seeing anything. Cool. Okay, you want to go to the next one? So let's talk a little bit more in detail about what that clinical consultative support looks like in our clinical case review process. So on the screen, you'll just see a list of some of our services that fall under Tier 3. And for the sake of time, I'll just give a quick overview of it. So for some of the referrals that we receive, our team of behavior analysts, or BCBAs, so board certified behavior analysts, they can conduct direct observations of the child or the youth. They can conduct functional behavior assessments. For those of you who are familiar with those, are FBAs. They can help create initial treatment recommendations and help to support the development of function-based behavior support plans, or BSPs. And again, as we're doing all of this, we're collaborating with our community providers, whoever referred the intake to us, the service provider team, parents, caregivers, really that wraparound collaborative support. And along with our clinical case review services, this also involves training. So whether it's local providers, support staff, anyone important in that person's life, and we take all the heavy lifting when it comes to data collection, analysis, all that stuff that is fun for me, but oftentimes boring and maybe overwhelming for others. But we can help monitor progress in that way as well. So just a quick overview. And then Kit, if you go to the next one, this is again just another breakdown of that system navigation, support, and advocacy and our individualized education plan help or assistance. So really what this slide shows is just a few more examples of these services that are focused more so on advocacy and support, navigating the system, whether it's waiver services or concerns with schools. We can help identify those community-based providers, help to navigate waiver services, educate on waiver services, attend IEPs, and just provide advocacy and support. We also have a very strong partnership with Families Together. They're wonderful, wonderful when it comes to helping us with school navigation support. Okay, if you'll go to the next one. So the last part in our tier 3 process is our follow-up / discharge. So the last step is that throughout all of this, we've been working collaboratively, part of those wraparound services with other service providers, caregivers, other family members, foster caregivers, and so on. And what we do with all the information that we've gathered, and once we've identified those community-based supports, we'll then provide a warm handoff with all that information that we've gathered over to the community-based provider so that they can take over the actual service delivery so that you can be receiving in-home support out in the community, and really accessing those services in your area rather than needing to go somewhere really far away or having that placement disruption where the child or the youth is in a PRTF. So once we've provided that warm handoff, we don't just like end there and say, good luck, hope everything is going well. We continue to conduct follow-ups and check-in meetings so that we can discuss updates, determine whether that initial reason why the referral came through, like what was that need met, or determine if there are any additional support needs at that time. Once everyone agrees that things are going well, then we fade out. Now that is an in-depth but still a quick overview. Doesn't dive into all of the potential needs that a family or that someone might run into, or all of the options on the intake, but we'll include a link to the intake form so you can kind of browse, see what all of the options are. But if you're experiencing something that's kind of challenging, or you're not really sure how to best approach something, or maybe you want some more information, just consultation, please contact us. We would be happy to partner with you and provide that support. Or, if we don't have the answer, we will certainly find someone who does have an answer for it. If you'll go to the next one. So to kind of wrap up everything that we just talked about, I wanted to give just a quick case example and walk you through kind of a representative example of a case. So this is hypothetical, totally made up, but just representative of different situations that we've encountered. So for this example, we have an intake form that's been completed by the child placement agency or a family member regarding a child that has some high support needs. This child is 12 years old. They've been diagnosed with autism, and they're with a kinship placement. Now, currently, this youth is receiving treatment in a PRTF and they're engaging in some challenging behaviors. So things like aggression, self-injury, school refusal, negative peer interactions, and sometimes those can really escalate and become pretty dangerous, pretty exciting behaviors. And they're really wanting some support with discharge planning and collaborative discharge planning with the PRTF. And one of the barriers that they're running into is that they have a lack of community supports where they live. So we oftentimes have families who reach out to us in more rural areas of Kansas where they don't have as access as readily as other areas. And so part of that discharge planning can be really daunting and overwhelming for that kinship placement, especially if they're concerned about that discharge potentially being not successful because they don't have community supports in place. So what we can do is, if you go to the next one over to the next slide, thanks. It'll just have that clinical case review to kind of anchor things on the side. So again, this is where we can get involved with the discharge planning with the PRTF. We can attend plan of care calls. We can meet with the kinship placement, the case manager, anyone on this individual's team. And we can also start to access our network of service providers and identify folks who are able to provide in-home services, whether that's ABA or respite care, attendant care. We try to identify those community supports, ensure that they now get involved in that PRTF discharge planning. Oftentimes, too, as we're doing all of these things simultaneously, it is sometimes a little bit of a circus balancing act. We are trying to find those providers. We're working on training with the kinship placement to make sure that they feel comfortable and confident and that they have strategies that will help them to be successful with that return back home. And we can also train staff at the school. We can train staff who are providing support at the home, whether it's attendant care services and things like that. But again, just wanted to highlight how all of these things kind of come together. At the end, if we have time, we can certainly talk through a few more examples that highlight kind of the spectrum of cases that we've served, but wanted to highlight this one for now. But yeah, feel free to ask questions in the chat and I'll kick it back over to Kit.
Thank you. Yes, please put questions in the chat. We'll be able to get to some like larger questions and maybe some situations that you are seeing as well at the end. But please feel free to put some questions in there. I just wanted to touch on some other programs and resources that the Kansas Family Support Center offers. This slide just has a few pictures of our team on it, including me and Sarah in this bottom one. It's us. I had pink hair then. Um, so the first thing that I wanted to talk about is the Kansas Autism and Disability Resource Navigator. We have an AI chatbot for ASD and IDD resource navigation. It is a prototype that is still under development, so responses may be slow. But this chatbot can help find disability resources. You don't need an account. There are guardrails in place. Our team worked really hard to make sure that it's only pulling from Kansas state websites. That way, you know, if you're asking a question for a specific service, you're not getting something from like the state of Washington or something like that. Um, So that part is pretty cool. When you go to our website, you'd see this. You'll see like a little disclaimer too that pops up for you to agree to. It gives you a note, and of course, if you are experiencing an emergency, please call 911. We are helpful to families, of course, but we are not crisis emergency service. But you have the chatbot there where you can indicate your county. There are some common Kansas disability questions and things like that. And actually, at the top of this page, too, it doesn't show it in this screenshot, but there are like two tabs. So this is the home page, but then the other tab is the resource page. So if you're not like if you don't have like a specific question or something you want to put in the chat bot, you don't necessarily have to. We also just have like in general our resource database. So you could just click the tab over for resource search and you can search for age range. You know, if you're looking for a service provided to kids under the age of 7 or over the age of 18, maybe you're looking for something in a specific county or things like that. You can just go in and look up services like that as well. Um, we mainly have like worked so hard on creating this kind of a database to help um, make it less overwhelming when you're trying to look for resources because sometimes you're looking for something and Google pops up with a lot of different things, but you're not sure what's actually in your area, what actually addresses the need that you have, and things like that. So you're able to kind of like narrow it down a little bit and find something that is useful to you.
Hit
So we
really
love,
quickly.
yeah.
I just wanted to add for the resource database, I should have put a box around it. At the very top, there's a blue banner there. Um, that if you're aware of any additional resources, like if there's something that you know about that you're like, this was extremely helpful for me, and it's not currently on our resource database, please provide feedback to us. This is an ever-growing and evolving database. We want for it to be as comprehensive as possible. So please give us feedback. And then for the chat bot, it is nowhere near as, powerful as some of the common like AI tools that you might be used to seeing. So it might be a little bit slower, but you don't need to create an account and there's no identifiable information that is saved if you ask questions. So like in that bottom box where it has you select your county or enter in the age, that's just so that it can give you even more specific responses, but they're not required for you to fill out if you don't want to. Um, so yeah, just a little bit more info, but those are newer and evolving resources. So reach out if you have questions about those. Okay,
Thank
back to
you.
you. Mhm.
Another thing that we offer at KU Med Center specifically, it's called our Bridge Clinic. The goal of our Bridge Clinic is to bridge the gap between autism diagnosis and entry into long-term treatment. This is a service that we provide to young children, typically under the age of 5, but we have had children as old as 6 enrolled. And it's just a short term ABA service. It's like 3 to 4 hours a day, 5 days a week for 6 to 12 months. It really just depends on how long it takes for a more permanent placement to have. And you'd be working with our team of BCBAs and intervention specialists, and you'd also be going through parent training as well. And that would be in person too. And this is just a little bit more about like our clinic schedule. Um, Our clinic is on campus. It's actually just a few feet away from my office. It's kind of fun because we have, some really awesome kiddos that come through our space. But in our morning session, 8 to 11 a.m., afternoon, 12 to 3, this could, ebb and flow a little bit, if you need a start time of 8:30, things like that, as well. And then this is a new part of our program and things that we're offering. It's called our Parent Empowerment Program. This is a project that I oversee in partnership with several other organizations. We have Families Together. We have the Kansas Institute for Positive, Healthy, and Inclusive Communities, also known as KIFIC. We have Integrated Behavioral Technologies, or IBT. And then we have KU School of Social Welfare as well. So we have some big partners on this grant that we are working with for the whole state. And so this project will develop a advocacy training program for peer support specialists. We have kind of renamed them to Parent Empowerment um, uh, Peer Supports, or PEPs for short. So our PEPs will who have successfully achieved reunification on their own. So they are people who have navigated the child well-being system and who have walked the walk, and so then they can talk the talk. And so they're working with caregivers who are just now navigating the system for the first time, to help them, learn advocacy and to be able to kind of break down the system a little bit more, because there's so much um, that happens. I'm seeing your question about parent-child bonding. So we have a few different services, and I'm actually going to go to my next slide. So we have one service that's our advocacy services. And so this specific thing is for families seeking reintegration. And so when it comes to parent-child bonding, they would help like navigate them to resources that could help them. So our PEPs are not like case managers, they're not like therapists or things like that. They're just people who have gone through that process and are able to help make the help make the reunification process less overbearing and overwhelming. So while they themselves may not um, directly help with parent-child bonding, other than just giving like their own experience and understanding, they can help navigate parents to those supports. But that is one facet. You're paired with a PEP according to your catchment area, which is like this map right here. We have PEPs for like each or two areas too. But we also have support groups, and this is a little bit broader of a category, where families seeking help and support while they navigate the child well-being system. They can also be people who like just newly reintegrated their child into the home, or maybe they're at risk of their child being removed and they're looking for supports. So this is something that we are going to be hosting the third Thursday of each month at 6 p.m. And this will be virtual through Zoom. It's a statewide thing until it picks up speed. We've had one so far. We actually have our second one tonight. So we're excited to get this moving and grooving. But we'll often have a speaker of sorts, very short, like 15-minute discussion where they'll talk about their information, whether that's just about the DCF system as a whole, maybe it'll be about courts, and allowing families to be able to ask more in-depth questions. And then there's, of course, the support group aspect where they're able to connect and build a network with other families across the state. And then we also have our educational training series. And this one is pretty broad. It's, families seeking knowledge and information about the system and supports. Um, And this is going to be more of like a webinar style type presentation. So very much so like this, where it's an hour long. Most of that hour is going to be one person or persons speaking and giving information. And there will be like a short Q&A at the end, but not quite as like one-on-one or detailed as the support group is. And so we're really excited to be getting this up and moving. We've already started seeing families. And like I said, we're on our second support group starting today. And we're going to kick off our educational training series in April. So if this is something that you're interested in, please, subscribe to our newsletter. There'll be more information coming out through that. Or you can send me an email as well. I have my email here at the end of this presentation. Oh, awesome. I would love for you to email me. So I have this slide for questions, of course. I want to give you guys a chance to ask that, but I just want to throw this slide up here as well as we talk. You can visit our website. If you email that KFSC at kumc.edu email, I do monitor that, so I will respond if you have a question about PEP.